From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. And I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. And my lovely and talented co-host, Joshua Bevan, is here with me today.
Hello.
It's sort of the Christmas episode. It's not very Christmassy, but by the time this comes out, it'll be after Christmas.
It's going to be too murdery for Christmas.
Some of the most interesting murders happened around the holidays.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emotions happening right now.
Exactly. But we're not talking about that. Thank you to Tipster Alicia for becoming the newest patron on Patreon at the top tier level. And that's the unicorn level. And she's absolutely a unicorn. Aww. It's like having your sister support you. She's, it's like, why is it always the people that you love and know that support you? And you're just like, can't random strangers chip in a buck every now and then? I know, it's so awful.
But everybody's family here.
Oh, right. I forgot. Sure. What is that?
I think it's an Olive Garden slogan.
Oh, right. I was like, some shitty restaurant that gives you too much fucking food you don't want. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
We're all family here. Yeah. We don't have to be Italian or whatever. I was thinking
fancy.
some shitty buffet, but you're right. I think it might be Olive Garden. So I have to thank Tipster Tammy because she sent me a picture of her wearing her Just the Tipsters beanie in Lake Tahoe.
Oh, yeah.
In the snow. And she's a Texas native. And she is the person who told me about the Carla Walker case. And then a few months after covering that case, Othram Labs, once again, not all heroes wear capes. Although I think there's a cape in their office that they pass around and take pictures in.
Nice.
It was very funny. I say that because they're also responsible for the case we're talking about today.
Oh, cool.
And I say responsible, and I know that it takes a village, and it's decades of police work and, witness statements and other things, but it's ultimately putting all those pieces together, and then genetic genealogy kind of comes to the rescue.
Cool.
Yeah. So they're responsible for the case that we're going to talk about today. And if you haven't listened to last week's episode, there is a remarkable update on episode 153, the Long Beach John Doe. And then if you want to hear an interview with David Middleman talking about what Othram does, and this is 2 years ago, I can't even believe it. I'm sure things have changed, but he is such a fascinating dude, and he's so passionate about what he does. He makes you interested, how science could be dry, maybe boring. No, sure. Not when he's talking about it. No. That's episode 163, and we'll be talking to Kristen Middleman at some point, probably after the holidays, because they have 5 kids.
Cool.
Yeah. You may have heard Adnan Syed now has a job at Georgetown University as a program associate in their new Prisons and Justice initiative. I know, you're making
I'm making a face of, wait, because
I love that.
Who's Adnan Syed?
Sort of the grandparent of true crime podcasts is one called Serial.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's about Adnan's case.
Oh, okay.
It's actually about Hae Min Lee, the victim. It should be about her. So if you're unfamiliar with that, she's the real person we should be talking about because, we don't know who did it. Lots of people still think he did it, and lots of people think he did not. And I don't know. I've listened to Serial multiple times. I've read a lot. I feel like it would be difficult for me. But he was released in September of this year.
Released and never charged with that crime?
Yep. Exonerated.
Okay.
No, he was charged.
He was charged,
spent 14 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was exonerated this year. And obviously there's a lot of articles you can read about it, and listen to Serial. I feel like, Mark once said to me that most podcasts have an agenda. And I believe that's true. And it could be a little slanted in his direction, but it's still a great podcast. Cool. Well done. It's the team that brings us This American Life. So it's just, it's well done. And it's an interesting case. And there are so many interesting cases. So this next one, I'm telling you, it was a big week in true crime. There was a little bit of an update. It's hard to call it an update when you're interviewing the chief of police, but if you're aware of the Idaho 4 murders, I love Joshua's face. And I'm like, have you ever heard of a man, Charles Manson?
Oh,
have you ever heard that?
Yes.
Okay, you have.
I heard of him.
Yeah,
okay.
He raised his hand. I know that one. So this is about 6 weeks ago. 4 students and they were in a rental house, big 6-bedroom rental house in Idaho, were stabbed to death in their sleep.
Oh, no.
And it's a very odd case. And that's why I think the armchair sleuths are coming out. And I feel like if we have learned anything from the Delphi case, please keep your speculation to yourself.
Right.
You know, if you want to write it down or go on, a nameless, page where you can spew your bullshit, do that. But I'm getting a little more angry as time goes on. So it's been 6 weeks. I understand the victim's parents are pretty upset that, because it's Moscow, Idaho. It's a small town. It's an odd event. There's things you can glean from how they were killed. They just released that they were stabbed. All you knew is that they're,
That's it. Okay.
it explains a little bit why the other 2 roommates didn't hear anything.
Oh, okay.
So there were 6 of them in the house. There used to be 6 roommates, but 1 moved out. It's a 6-bedroom house. So the reason there were 4 who passed away and 2 that were there is that one girl had her boyfriend staying over.
Oh, okay.
And 2 roommates who had bedrooms, I guess, in the lower level didn't hear anything.
Wow.
Also, sort of, I don't want to call her the main victim, but let's call her parents said something that just made me double over. Her father said there were many more gouges in Casey than the others.
Oh, God.
So I don't know if it's personal. We can maybe say it might be personal, but again, I don't want to speculate. I don't want to be the people that are coming out of the woodwork to say shit really anger me a lot because none of us fucking know.
Yeah.
It's an odd event in an area that wouldn't happen. It's just weird. So the 2 female roommates, they finally released this week that the other 2 roommates who slept through it were female. They were on a different level. It's a 3-level house and 2 levels. 2 girls are on one. The girl and the
Right.
boy are on the other. And then
Okay.
also, I'm just going to say Casey is the one who her parents said she had many more injuries. There were defense wounds. So they were in their sleep. They tried to, also her dog Murphy was in the house.
Oh, no.
It's interesting. I'm guessing Murphy didn't bark because it would have woken everyone up.
Yeah, well.
So you can make your own theories about who uses a knife. A knife is used by sexual sadists and to replace a penis, and no one was sexually assaulted. Women also use knives.
Okay.
Number 1 is poison.
Women poison and then use knives. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it's a woman. I don't know how a woman could subdue 4 people. Maybe there was more than one person, but so it was a large knife, and you might know this term, K-bar, K-A-B-A-R. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, it's a military style, not that big.
Thank you.
Big knife.
Big knife.
Big knife.
They call it a large fixed blade knife.
Yeah.
And then they showed a picture of a K-bar knife saying that that's what is suspected. And, Casey had more wounds than the others. They were looking for a man who was wearing a hoodie. So, they're college kids. It's a Saturday night.
Wow.
They were at a food truck at like 1 a.m. And there was a guy with a hoodie pulled over from security footage. They were looking for him. They found him. He is not a suspect. They're still looking for a white Hyundai Elantra that they think might have information. It breaks my heart when you hear Casey's father say the investigators have messed up 1 million times.
Wow.
They turned it over to the state police because they know that they have better resources. The FBI is involved. I don't know. The chief defends everything that happened. He said, the house is still cordoned off, I guess, for more, when it's when it's 4 people over a large area, you probably have to take a lot of time, Yeah. Wow. So the chief is defending every, decision they've made. And I feel bad for everyone, honestly. I think it's going to be interesting. And I really hope that there's a conclusion at some point. But this is the part that bothers me that I had to talk about. And you might want to fast forward through this or just realize this is me standing on my soapbox. Edmund Kemper, who was convicted of 10 murders. But the one that I remember the most is his mom and her best friend. And he cut his mom's head off and pulled her larynx out and fucked her neck.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. So he's working with the FBI, Joshua, to create a profile on this killer.
Oh, wow.
Or killers. And it bothers me. It bothers me a lot. Wow. Is the only reason they're using his, his skills because he dubbed himself the co-ed killer.
Oh my God.
I mean, he dismembered people. He decapitated people. He's a necrophiliac. All the things that did not happen in this case.
Oh, wow.
All the things that did not happen. It just bothers me. I mean, I'm like.
And he's locked up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And they're going to him.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. I'm praying
like Anthony
it's
Hopkins
not true.
style.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, very much.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's like you coming to me and asking me about baseball stats. Like I know fuck about shit. And I understand he's a killer who killed like 10 people. But I don't understand the connection. And maybe there's things about the case because they're keeping everything kind of close to the vest. Maybe there's things about the case I'm just never going to understand. It's been a week of me just being angry. Just being angry. Yeah, well, okay, deep breath. Stepping down off the soapbox.
Goose fraba.
What'd you say?
Goose fraba.
What the fuck is that? Is that your mantra?
That's to chill down. That's from it's from Anger Management.
Porn?
No, Jack Nicholson. Just Goose fraba.
I don't remember that.
Oh,
I love your photographic memory. You remember like all sorts of details that are interesting.
I guess just because that is what I say. I don't.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that means.
I think it was supposed to be a joke in the movie, but like it really is.
I was like, is he saying it backwards?
It's a very soothing word to just.
Well, it's not a word. It's like
soothing sounds to breathe out.
Yeah, a series of consonants and vowels.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I thought it was like goose fromage or something. I didn't cheese covered goose. I didn't know what was happening. Anyway,
that sounds delicious.
Thank you. No, it does not. Thank you for giving me a mantra I can't pronounce, but I appreciate the effort in trying to get me to calm my ass down because I probably need it. I need it. Thank you.
Breathe. Chill out.
Yeah, just yell at me.
Calm down.
That's actually what I like. Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you say like, calm your tits? Why don't you say that too? Well, if you just said that, that'd be awesome. And I would stand right up and punch you in the nuts. Speaking of nuts.
Oh, God. Oh, boy.
How's things going for you?
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Since you mentioned, support for Just the Tip-Sters is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels.
They are amazing.
Oh, it's going great. Thank you for asking.
I know. By the time this comes out, this is gonna, be after Christmas. But there's New Year's Eve, there's Valentine's Day, there's Groundhog Day. See what I did there?
Oh my God.
Several people.
6 more weeks of winter.
Yeah. Several people messaged that the original Manscaped song made them laugh.
Oh my God.
Alicia, Lisa, Michelle, Sherry, so.
Oh, good.
City ball sacks, busy ball sacks, filled with holiday cheer.
Oh,
in the air, there's a feeling of Manscaped. Children gasping, people laughing, meeting ball after ball, and on every street corner you'll hear silver balls, silver balls. It's Manscaped time in the city. Ring-a-ling, hear them ring. Soon it will be Manscaped Day. Rudolph the Trimble reindeer. It's beginning to look a lot like trimmed balls.
Oh no.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Just straight, that's it.
Thank God he manscaped just before. Jingle balls, jingle balls. I could go on all day. Apparently. But I will not.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't even know how I have any friends left. So anyway, let's just say someone needed something in their life like this, Joshua. What would they do?
Well, actually, if they go to manscaped.com and use the code JUSTTHETIP, they can get a 20% off and free shipping, free worldwide shipping with the code JUSTTHETIP at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job.
I love that.
Thank you, Manscaped.
That's what it takes is the right tool, and they obviously have
oh my God,
a plethora of great tools. Are you crying?
Yes, I'm crying.
I didn't think it was that funny, but okay. I spent some time this week going through all.
That's what's funny to me.
The Christmas songs I can think
of. That you had to have spent.
It's sad.
For that.
It's very sad. I have no life. So this is what I do. Bastardized Christmas songs about testicles. So, and what's so interesting is how many Christmas songs lend themselves to,
gosh, yeah. That's amazing.
Manscaping. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. So one thing besides watching Joshua laugh till he cries that makes me happy is knowing a place like Othram Labs exists in the world.
Nice.
And the work that they do is spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a few weeks ago, I think. There's so many cases that they have solved recently. I mean, I like to just say they solved them. And I understand it's a lot of people together.
Sure.
It's a lot. But there's so many cases that come out, sometimes more in 1 week. And they have to release them when the law enforcement agency that's the lead tells them they can.
Mm-hmm.
So they may have solves sitting on the shelf that they know they'll be able to talk about soon, but they can't release it yet,
Right.
So a woman who we now know was from Ohio was found in Kentucky. So 1 month, this is the sad part, Linda Bennett, I don't even want to call her the Owen County Jane Doe anymore because they gave her back her name and her name is Linda Bennett, went missing in May, I guess, of 1988. And she didn't have a close relationship with her family. And she was reported missing about a month later. How they didn't, maybe she was missing for more than we think, because how they didn't connect a Jane Doe, maybe it's across state lines. In 1988, things are different.
Sure.
One of the things but it's like an hour and a half away. Columbus is not far from, Cincinnati, which is not far from Northern Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
It's all if you live in Northern Kentucky, you go to Columbus for stuff all the time.
Got it. Events
or, shows, or there used to be a Funny Bone there that I would go to when I managed comedy clubs. So it's not like we're talking, when I say across state lines, I'm not talking like Texas to, Wyoming.
Okay.
I mean, it's
just
across
right
the river. Yeah, okay. It's close. So she was from the Columbus area and she was, reported missing. And what's so interesting is she was 38, and the way that she was described, and I get it, she probably had a hard life. I don't know if there were any substance abuse issues, but she didn't have teeth, which I think gave her a gaunt look. And so she was only 38, but, some of the recreations we're going to talk about, and one particularly that pisses me off really bad because I don't I don't know that it's really connected. But anyway, some of the recreations, made her look a little older. They also, there's a debate on the color of her hair. Was it blonde? Was it dark? I'm like, her hair was still there.
Wow.
Hair and bones don't disintegrate,
Yeah, wow.
So it was about a month she was laying out. I will off the side of the road, and she was found by a couple. They thought they spotted someone who was unresponsive, and they got out of their car and went to look, and it's like, no, she's dead. Long dead. I don't know what they used to describe this as a homicide, but they knew immediately it was a homicide. Okay. What I'm going to talk about later that pisses me off is the person who killed probably 90 people. There's a hypothesis that she was one of his, and I'm not buying it, and I have some great information that I'll explain why I'm not buying it. But if she were one of his victims, he strangled his victims. So maybe it was a missing hyoid bone, which is a very small bone and could have just been carried off by scavengers if she's laying out there for a month. Her arm was missing. Oh, wow. Some fingers on the other hand was missing. So, it could be animal activity, right? Sure. Okay. So it really bothers me. So they ruled her death a homicide immediately, but they couldn't identify her. And teeth are kind of important, if you've gone to the dentist at all. So investigators did collect her fingerprints and, put them into different, databases, and they did multiple forensic facial reconstructions, but I'm not exactly happy with those. Who am I? I'm not an artist. It's just, I feel like there could have been a better job done. Okay. On all the drawings, but it's open for all these years in hopes that somebody could identify, her, Linda. And it takes genetic genealogy, because they collected DNA from Linda's son. Oh. Yeah. They collected her fingerprints, and, that didn't really help. They put out a facial reconstruction. And let me tell you, there's some stuff online that's like, the drawings are probably somewhat better because they actually do a full face and then to the side, try and get a profile. But there's like a clay model that's terrible. I know. I have to stop saying that. It's terrible. Anyway, so the Attorney General sent someone with the sexual assault kit initiative team, and they're the ones that provided the funding for Othram to run the tests and solve the case. And Othram prides themselves on the cases that no one else can solve because they have developed, these techniques that are their own, and they work solely with law enforcement. They don't do medical, they don't do, history, your family history. They do.
This is all to solve cases. Okay.
That's how beautiful you are. That's exactly their motto. Solve all the cases.
Solve all the cases.
Yep.
Okay.
That's amazing. It's like you're just totally dialed into that. But so I will say that a detective from the state police said it reinforces that no one person can make a case like this a success. It takes professionals from all disciplines and agencies working together to bring a case like this to fruition. So they partnered with Othram to make the identification. And Othram uses this technique that they call it recovery, enrichment, and analysis of human DNA that was able to match Linda Bennett. She was a mother, a daughter. She was a grandmother at the age of 38.
Oh, wow.
And the thing that we're going to mention an agency number at the end of this because I'm grateful that Othram gave her name back. And now we need to know who did this.
Okay.
And one of the theories that I think is terrible is that it was Samuel Little. It might be true, but I don't. So investigators received new information, that's all that we're told, about the possible identity of her body and then contacted her family who had reported her missing.
Okay.
They finally put 2 and 2 together, and then they got her son's DNA. So when someone says she was another victim of Samuel Little, I get, quite honestly, physically nauseous.
Okay, so Samuel Little has other victims.
90.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And, a connection to, and he's an unusual case. You'll hear some details, Joshua, but he has another connection to Kentucky because that's where he was finally picked up.
Okay.
So he was kind of an itinerant human who was not book smart, but like a petty thief.
Okay.
Steal money, steal checks, shoplift. So he has a rap sheet that's probably as tall as you. But what he also did, being someone who could drive across the country back and forth, is murder women. Most of them were disenfranchised women, maybe sex workers, but not all. And we will probably never know all. But he did something interesting, and this makes me sick, but I guess I'm glad he did it. In prison, he learned a couple of skills. One was in an art class, and I guess he had, I wouldn't call it talent.
Okay.
But he has kind of like an eidetic memory. And he drew all of his victims.
Oh, wow.
The ones he remembered, down to color of eyes, color of earrings.
Wow.
Hair accessories.
That's wild.
Yes. So in prison, he picked up 2 skills, which again makes me ill. I believe there should be programs in prison. Absolutely.
Sure.
He picked up boxing.
Okay.
And apparently he had an affinity for that.
Okay.
He punched his victims in the face, and with one punch he could knock them out. He would masturbate on top of them, and if they woke up, he would strangle them to death.
Jesus.
So that's one skill, and then art is the other. And he used both in his career as a monster.
Wow.
So I have a little insider information, and I've had this video and no one's seen it. I feel blessed that she shared it with me. Maybe I'll ask her. I don't know that she'll let me show it, but a friend to the podcast and someone who's just turned out to be a remarkable gift in my life is Detective Kelly Best from Cincinnati.
Okay.
And we met when I called Cincinnati PD Cold Case Department, and she answered the phone, and she has been on the podcast twice.
Cool.
2 different cases. And we are friends.
Cool.
When Mark died, she flew out here.
Oh.
And I was like, what are you doing? And she said, I'm not going to let you be by yourself when you've lost the love of your life.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I said, I can't even let you stay in my guest room because Mark's best friend is staying there. He's in from Cleveland. And she said, oh, I have a hotel.
Wow.
She just was there for me.
That's beautiful.
The entire time. How do you meet a homicide detective, who becomes that kind of a source in your life? That's
wow.
So Kelly, there were 2 cases, one identified and one they have to go in the opposite direction that they believe are Sam Little's. Well, they know one is. So Kelly, before I knew her, flew out here, and Samuel Little was housed in Lancaster.
Okay.
Like 30 miles north of us.
Right.
And I'd always wanted to go talk to him, which, it would be a little Hannibal Lecter-like, you know? And when you see this video, if Kelly allows me to share it, she sent it to me back in 2020. And that motherfucker died in December of 2020.
Oh, wow.
And Kelly said, I wonder if he got my Christmas card. I'm not kidding you, Joshua. She sent him a Christmas card. She really did. You know why? Because she's fucking smart, and he liked her.
Yeah.
And he kept in touch, and she kept in touch.
Yeah.
She's fucking smart.
Yeah.
It just made me laugh my ass off when I was like, he died like December 30th. And I was like, motherfucker died. And she goes, I know. I wonder if he got my Christmas card. And I was like, you asshole. I mean, she's just, I love her so much. So Kelly is about 5 feet tall,
Okay.
and she's an ex-Marine.
Okay.
Tiny little Spitfire.
Okay.
And tough as nails.
Cool.
Smart. I'm just going to say takes no prisoners. She really doesn't.
Okay.
She lives her life just out loud.
Cool.
And I love her. So she sent me this video of her talking to Samuel Little about the 2 cases in Ohio. And Joshua, I had to stop it 18 times. I had to call Mark at work because it was so upsetting because she's so little and he was 6'4". I get it. He was 78 at the time.
Okay.
He was an old man wearing an orange jumpsuit and a beanie, sitting in an interview room eating a banana.
Oh my God.
And little tiny Kelly Best is there. Now, what I didn't know is behind the camera, out of the range, was her partner.
Okay.
Because I thought she was in there by herself. He had no chains or shackles or handcuffs.
Wow.
I just thought he could punch her and choke her in a heartbeat.
Right. Before anybody else could
But
get
you
in the
could
room.
tell he really liked her.
Cool.
And she was, I would like to give her an Oscar because she's fucking great.
Nice.
She was like kind of leaning forward and she's like, so you don't remember that? And she would cut him off when he would start to ramble. It was amazing. And she said, so we know one of your victims, that was Anna Scott in Columbus. And the thing that I just wanted to vomit is he goes, oh, that was her name.
Oh no.
Right.
Oh,
so
boy.
Going in reverse, the reason Kelly was there is that he says he killed another woman in Cincinnati. And he describes her down to that she was bisexual. She had a Hispanic female lover. It was in kind of the over the Rhine district. He kept close to the freeway.
Oh, okay.
All across the country. Oh
boy.
Yeah. And they can't find that person.
Oh.
They've gone through all the Jane Does. He said he left her on a hillside. He describes the hillside very much, kind of the hills surrounding the Ohio River in Cincinnati.
Wow.
But, and another connection is he gets arrested at a homeless shelter in Kentucky. And he gets arrested on DNA evidence from 3 murders in California.
Jeez.
Right. So Kentucky and California, 2 places that are important to me. They are the reason why he finally gets stopped. And he was he was an old man. What's so fascinating is the cases in California, the 3 murders, he actually disrupted the proceedings and said, this is bullshit. I didn't do it. And then once they have him, he starts to draw all of his victims.
Then he's like, okay.
Yeah. So
wow.
People are surmising that the Owen County Jane Doe was a victim of Samuel Little.
Okay.
I'm going to go on record and say, I don't think so. I could be very wrong. But I called Kelly because she's my resource and said,
sure.
Do you think the Owen County, I'm not going to call her that. Do you think Linda Bennett is one of Sam Little's victims? And she said, I don't think so. She said, I think he would have told me.
Sure.
And when you see this videotape that's about, I'm trying to remember, is it 45 minutes long or is it an hour long? It's pretty long because I just couldn't even watch it all the way through. I think I was just so scared for her. And I know my brain knew she was alive. She'd filmed it, a year ago or something. Right. But I'm like, it freaked me out.
Yeah.
And I don't freak out easily. But I guess for some reason I went into like mama bear mode to protect her, and she does not need my protection. She would protect me. But I just was like, I didn't even want him. At one point, he kind of reaches out and punches her in the arm, gently.
Like a joke?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, don't you fucking put your hands on her. I just was like out of control watching this video. And he laughs. And not completely inappropriate, but she will mention a detail about the person he says he murdered, and she's trying, and he's like, well, I remember this, and I remember what car I had at the time. He had like a penchant for really big like Cadillacs or something because he could use the back seat as a killing ground.
Yeah.
he's pulling things maybe out of his butthole or maybe from his memory, but he finally, he kind of, laughs and he punches her in the arm and he goes, I'm trying to help you.
Boy.
And I just was like, don't you fucking touch her. So he did a sketch and says, I met her in Columbus, and he would get cities confused. And I've had a really great detective who said, Sam remembers what Sam wants to remember.
Okay.
And that's actually a Texas Ranger, Jim Holland, who actually kind of broke him. He went to interview him about a case in Texas, and he ended up confessing to a bunch of more.
Wow.
Yeah. So that detective says, Sam remembers what Sam wants to remember.
What he wants to. Okay.
But I mean, a lot of his sketches, unfortunately, have lined up with victims. So he does this sketch, and I don't think it really resembles Linda at the time of her death. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
And he isn't a real artist by any means, but some of his detail is pretty fucking good.
Right.
So he describes her as a hippie, a woman he met at a strip club in Columbus. That might check out. Again, she didn't have didn't have a close connection with her family. She had, kids and, now grandkids. So he said she was white. She had short dishwater blonde hair, which is another thing that upsets me about the recreations. Very few of them have her with blonde hair. It's like dark hair.
It's all dark.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
They did one separate one that says, here she is with lighter hair. Did she have that when she died or not? That's not a movable part. Right. So the drawing he did.
She has light hair. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So she had, dishwater blonde hair. He said, I think she's 25. And again, Linda didn't look 25. She also didn't look 38. She looked markedly older. Okay. And he said, she's about 5'7". And this woman asked him to drive her to Miami. So they stopped in Cincinnati, and then they went on to Covington, and she wanted to get out and listen to some music somewhere, I guess at a bar or club. And Samuel Little just kept driving. And he drove up on a winding hill on a rural path, and he killed her and left her body partially covered by vegetation. And of course, he doesn't remember all the details that maybe it was Owen County. And back then, Owen County is still somewhat rural. It's getting more built up because it can almost be considered a bedroom community of Cincinnati.
Okay.
Everything's kind of moving south.
Got it.
But, in 88, it was rural.
Okay.
Mostly farms and, very rural. So about a month later, a couple is walking, and they thought that, it was an unresponsive person, and she wasn't really facially recognizable, and her left arm was missing. So they thought she was sexually assaulted. Good thought. She was only wearing men's brown socks.
Oh, wow. Found
near her was a blue bra and, other things that could have belonged to her. Near, again, out in the wilderness, scavengers take your shit.
Sure.
So police released information about her discovery, and a witness came forward that said, I may have seen her walking on the freeway, but I don't know that was ever, I don't think that was ever corroborated. Oh yeah, it says this could never be confirmed. So in 2019, Parabon Labs, another interesting lab that works with genetic DNA, they have technology where they can take your DNA and basically tell you what you look like in a 3D model.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it done on DNA they found on victims, and it's fascinating. And I'll tell you what I thought was fascinating is they took DNA from Andrea Canning, who's one of the investigative reporters.
Oh, okay.
And they put it in, and it made a 3D whatever of Andrea Canning.
Rendered wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. But they don't have the technology that Othram does.
Okay.
So they offered, to test the results, and, it just wasn't. They have hair clippings, they have DNA, So what they found on her, they said graying dark brown hair, which is another reason why I don't think she's a Sam Little victim. She had a homemade tattoo of the name Steve on her upper arm. It said she may have given birth in the past, and she did. She had, healed injuries to her facial bones and to a couple of ribs and some bones in her spine, and they had been healed for 1 to 2 years.
Wow.
Right. And she didn't have any teeth. So that she was wearing dark brown men's socks with green toes. Found near her was a brown nylon blouse, men's tennis shoes, size 5.5. So that's probably her, because that's small. A pair of blue jeans and a blue bra. So what we have to do now is find out if it was Sam Little or if it was someone else. But I'm going to ask the Tip-Sters to do something for me, because this week, and pretty much not every week, a lot of times through the year, the amazing Tip-Sters do something for me really wonderful.
Yeah.
As Joshua has seen, I have a plethora of unicorn items. Yeah. I get the most amazing, thoughtful things. And I'm not saying don't do that, but if there's something you want to do, and I understand we have a Patreon account, and funding support is really great. If you want to give me a priceless gift, consider donating to the crowdsourcing section of Othram.com. They have new cases up all of the time, and maybe the agency in charge of a case doesn't have it in their budget for testing. From my understanding, it takes about $5,000 per case for the proper testing. And honestly, that sounds pretty cheap when you think about it, all the expenses, all the manpower, all the chemistry. I'm so blessed to have listeners that are way more than listeners. They're like family, and not in an Olive Garden kind of way. Yeah. I'm not going to provide endless breadsticks at all. The thoughtful things that arrive here have meant more to me than I can explain. It's sometimes when I least expect it, and when I might most need it.
So beautiful.
And I appreciate, all of the things I've gotten. They're all amazing and wonderful. And the fact that anyone even thinks of me is kind of amazing to me. So if you want to donate to anything, consider Othram.com. I revere them, and in my mind, they make the world a better, safer place. So that's something I would just like to ask. And you can find, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Linda Bennett's case was solved with crowdsourcing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the two things I hope you remember is Othram.com. It's Othram. They're in Houston, Texas, and they are magnificent. And if you know anything about Linda Bennett, about Sam Little, about anything involving her case, because what we need is to find out who did this to her now that we know her name, please call the state tip line at 1-800-222-5555. 1-800-222-5555, and more cowbell.
If you would like to support this podcast and get early access and other cool murderous swag, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.